From reuniting families to welcoming more refugees, when it comes to immigration, President Biden has made several promises that so far he has yet to keep. NBC News Justice correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now with more. And Julia, you narrowed it down to 5 major immigration promises yet to be fulfilled as President Biden approaches 100 days in office. So tell us, what are they?
Well, it starts with reuniting those families separated under the Trump administration, also ending ICE detention for families. It also would mean raising that refugee cap, stopping border wall construction. Right now it's paused, but to actually permanently decree that it is stopped. And then also holding the Trump administration accountable for the family separation policy. These are all things that as a candidate or as president-elect, Biden said he would do. That's not necessarily that he's broken those promises, but at this point, they're promises that have been deferred or delayed.
Let's take a look at one of those promises. The White House now says the president will increase the refugee cap by May 15th, facing a lot of pressure from the left wing of the party. First, let's listen to what Press Secretary Jen Psaki had to say about that this week.
The cap is just a number. Most oftentimes throughout history, you don't reach the cap. The cap is just a number. We could set the cap at 100,000 or 1 million. It doesn't really. We're trying to send a message to the world that we want to welcome in refugees, and that's who we are as an administration. We've always been committed to the objective, and the goal of 125,000 by next fiscal year is really a question of how close we could get and what kind of down payment we could do this year.
So, Julia, break down the president's campaign promise for us and why the White House says achieving it will be such a challenge.
Well, as a candidate, President Biden said he wanted to, raise the refugee cap to 125,000. Then when they came in, they said, really, we need to do that for a full fiscal year. So we'll look at September when they have a full fiscal year under their belt that they can actually accomplish rather than coming in midway. So for this fiscal year, they looked at half of that. Then they said just last week that, you know what, they're not ready to raise it to that. But as you saw there, by May 15th, they do think that they may have a final increased number, but still not committing to what that might be. They say that it's a matter of processing, at least that's what Jen Psaki has said, that it's hard to process those numbers when they really have to rebuild a system that was dismantled under the previous administration. But we've also seen White House officials say that it's because of what's happening at the border that the system is overwhelmed. But really, that argument doesn't hold a lot of water. And if you talk to immigration advocates and experts, they'll very quickly point to the fact that there are 2 totally separate agencies that handle refugees who are processed through the UN and the State Department overseas versus people who arrive at our border claiming asylum and are processed through DHS, and those children are cared for by Health and Human Services. So really, it's hard to say that one system should have an impact on the other. And so we're still waiting to see exactly where that number will fall. And in the meantime, you have refugees that are really impacted. These aren't people who are just waiting, carrying on with their lives. They're usually in refugee camps and sometimes have sold everything they have, thinking they may be resettled in the United States, only to be told it's not time.
Julia, we should note the president has kept some promises when it comes to immigration. What are those that he's kept?
That's right. The biggest one would be ending the Remain in Mexico policy. He actually did that in a very orderly way. There were tens of thousands of immigrants who were waiting in Mexico because they had been told under the Trump administration they needed to wait there until their court date in the United States. There were essentially refugee camps just set up at our border along in northern Mexico towns where they were often targeted and kidnapped and held ransom and victims to attack. The Biden administration came in a very orderly way, started to pinpoint exactly who qualified, who had active cases, give them dates to show up, and start to systematically let them into the United States where they can wait here for their asylum dates rather than in those dangerous conditions in those camps. So that's been one way that they've been incredibly successful.
Julia Ainsley, as always, we appreciate your reporting on this important issue. Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.